I think it's time for Auburn to get boring on the offensive side of the football.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zac Blackerby, and thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. We're dapping it up on the Friday edition of the show with Darrell Daprich, Montgomery, radio legend. We'll give you the New Mexico predictions for as they come to Jordan Hare Stadium this weekend, as well as kind of some of the things Hugh Freeze has said about focusing on the young wide receivers. But Darrell, you and I were talking before we clicked record. It's time for Auburn to get boring on the offensive side of the football. I know that's not what he wants to do. He wants heavy RPO. He wants a vertical passing game. But until you have a quarterback that consistently proves that they can do that in a game, it's time to lean on these stable of running backs.
Yes. What is more important? What you want to do or you think is a goal or directive that you want to aspire to, or win football games? And here's where we're at. We're at a crossroads. I think sometimes, Zach, coaches get caught up in appeasing fan bases, recruits, players that are on the team, and try to get away from what they do best rather than playing to their strengths. I was guilty of wanting to see, now I'm all about balance, but I think that Auburn is at a crossroads right now where if they decide, you know what, that's not who we are. Our offensive identity is our defense played better in the second half. We think that they're maturing and coming along. We've got some of the best running backs in the conference. It might be a little boring, but if it helps us win more games, 21-17 or whatever, then that's what you have to do. I'm sorry. It's time to kind of maybe go back to who you are from an identity purpose.
Well, and we saw this a little bit last year where they tried to run stuff vertically and have an effective passing game, and it didn't work. And then they started running the football more, and Jarquez Hunter was one of the best backs in the SEC. Shocking nobody within Auburn, maybe folks throughout the conference, but Auburn folks weren't surprised by that. And we haven't seen a whole lot of the running backs so far this year. And when we have seen them go to Jarquez Hunter, and not so much Damari Austin and Jeremiah Cobb yet, just because they haven't gotten the touches or the attention offensively or any kind of part of the market share, which I'm surprised by the way. But they've been effective. I mean, Freeze was asked about that at his Monday presser, and his response was, yeah, no, we've been able to run the ball. We're getting like 6 or 7 yards a touch. And then they would open up the offense on second down, and he said he'd get guys open and they'd still turn the ball over. So to me, I'm with you. Like, I think it's time for Auburn to get boring and just run the football because they need to win some football games. But here's where I would push back a little bit, Darrell, and I want to hear your thoughts on this. We still think Auburn can run the football on anybody. Do you think they need to run it all over New Mexico on Saturday if they can? This is a New Mexico defense that's one of the worst pass defenses in all of college football through the first 2 weeks of the season. Do you think, no, this is still an opportunity to give Payton, Thorne, and Hank Brown reps as far as throwing vertically against a pass defense that has not been good up to this point? Or do you say, screw it, we've got to be a rushing football team moving forward if we're going to win football games? Let's start this Saturday.
Okay, so let me address that. First of all, I will answer that, but I'm going to answer that with a transition. Number one, when you talked about why Cobb and Austin didn't get as many touches, we're surprised. It's because of A, time of possession, and B, how many possessions Auburn went 2 and out. Then you get an opportunity. If you want to switch that time of possession, gulf, and deficit, run the football, and you will. I also think when you do that, Zach, the vertical plays will still be there. They may even be there more efficiently because you're running the football first, thereby softening up the defense to take shots downfield. So my answer would be yes, still take shots downfield against New Mexico, still throw it 20 or 25 times, but maybe do it off the run first with more play action, running on first down, second down, because I don't think you're going to be in third and long if you run it on first and second down against New Mexico. I still think you're going to be 3rd and 3, which is manageable, and then throw it. then take shots or take a shot on second down when it's 2nd and 5. It'll be there. I agree with you 100%. If Auburn, but the problem is if Auburn just continues to try to air it out and says, okay, we can run the ball at will against New Mexico, let's work on our passing game. Isn't it fool's gold, though, if they throw for 350 yards against New Mexico? Is it really telling you that you've accomplished anything? Because it just seems to be artificial because of who it's against. Do it against somebody that you have to do it against, and that's different. New Mexico is giving up almost 600 yards a game.
Yeah.
Good Lord.
It's
and
bad.
So what are you gaining by throwing it for 350 against New Mexico? Is it proven anything? I think you need to worry more about Auburn and what Auburn's identity is. And if it means coming out and running it 55% of the time and throwing it 45% of the time, so what? Do it. Put something on film for Arkansas to look at.
Yeah, this Saturday to me is more about not necessarily what you want to do for the rest of the year, but figuring out who you want to do it with for the rest of the year. And if you want to get all the running backs involved, get all the running backs involved. If you want to focus on the freshman wide receivers and these transfers that have come in, like, let's get them reps. Like, let's have some sustained drives and get folks into the football game, because they didn't get a whole lot of guys into the football game on the offensive side of the ball against Cal. And obviously, you know, the underlying tone here is like, if you want to do it with Hank Brown, get him in the football game. If you want to do it with Payton Thorne, keep him in the football game and like, let's get him the reps. Is he going to win anybody over based off of what he does against New Mexico on Saturday? No, of course not. But internally, like, you can still get tape to say, okay, like, you're still not doing these things right, or you're doing these things well. We're going to call more of this stuff over the course of the game. But from a public perception, Auburn's not winning anybody over this weekend.
That's the key. Who cares? It's not about winning anybody over. It's about winning freaking football games. And if fans walk out of Jordan-Hare grumbling because Auburn beat Arkansas 27-21 or beat Oklahoma 16-13, then shame on them. It's about winning the game. And sometimes you have to punt and say, you know what, this isn't working. Look, I know sometimes it's hard. People want to, historically, it looks like I'm just going back into a better time. I only say things like this sometimes to make a reference because it's worked before, and maybe somebody that's not around, it can educate them. In 1989, Auburn had a football team that was one of the most successful. They were 10-2, but at some point during the season, they struggled. They lost to Florida State and Tennessee. And Pat Dye says, we're getting away from who we are. Auburn went out against Mississippi State and ran it 60 times and won 14-0. And fans were walking out of Jordan-Hare going, we're screwed. This is boring. This is ugly. And then look what they went on to do. They beat Alabama. They beat Ohio. It can happen. I don't care about winning public perception. I don't care about winning the press conference. I get it. Do you want to win recruits? But winning is more important than winning public perception. And that's where I think Auburn needs to really, and Coach Freeze needs to really look at this and go, we've got one of the best running back rooms in the country. Let's quit wasting it.
Is Hugh Freeze too focused on keeping the freshman wide receivers happy? We jump into that conversation in just a moment, right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience is what brings home championships. It's also what keeps your ride or die alive. Darrell, you've recently used eBay Motors, and there's a part like in your office that you got from eBay Motors.
I did. I haven't. I'm not a mechanically inclined, so I'm not putting it on. I got to get someone to put it on for me. Sure. But it's here. It came in its box, and it's been sitting there ready to go.
Is that the one that you got for like $150?
Yes.
Everywhere else it was like 300 something?
It was double, and it came within 4 or 5 days. It was a perfect match to what I currently had on my vehicle. So, yeah, as soon as I get somebody rounded up to put that on, because you don't want me doing it, pretty cool. Save some money, and it's here. I'm ready to roll.
Yeah, and with eBay Guaranteed Fit, the parts guaranteed to fit that vehicle, or of course, Darrell would get his money back. So keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Today's show is also brought to you by our friends at LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn is not just another job board. Darrell, you've gone to LinkedIn as you run your small business, because the folks at LinkedIn.com/LockedOnCollege, how you can post your job for free. But odds are if you want a qualified candidate, the qualified candidates are on LinkedIn. They're not anywhere else.
They do a lot of front-loaded work for you. So you can just get to the interview process. They do a lot of the stuff that takes a lot of time, the screening and all that good stuff that gives you a good qualified candidate to even interview.
Which is super aware of LinkedIn, because small business owners, I mean, you run a business, you've got a million things going on, and to add, hey, we've got to hire somebody, you want that to be a quick and painless process. So you can post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day, and for all the everydayers out there. Thank you so much for liking and subscribing to the show. Darrell, it's been a talking point, and Hugh Freeze has said this. I don't know if he said it as presser or at Tiger Talk on Monday, but he made the comment that, you know, he's focused on making sure everybody feels like they're involved, specifically the younger guys. And he kind of hinted at the transfer portal, where it's like, you always got to make sure everybody is happy. Once again, like I'm never going to criticize a coach for being too honest, but like that does feel a little like too transparent sometimes, but I'm all for it. I'd rather him be too transparent than not tell us anything. So I'm not going to criticize that at all. But obviously, like, some Auburn fans hear that and they're like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? And when you look at what they did offensively, like, you know, targeting Cam Coleman, even when he's hurt, targeting Cam Coleman when he's the deep pattern on a 4th and 2 situation, when you had guys that are open underneath. This kind of goes back to what we just talked about, but like, yes, you want to make sure those freshman guys are involved, but at the same vein, like, Perry Thompson played 1 snap on Saturday. So it's like, are you even actually doing that, despite you saying that?
It's very difficult coaching in this day and age with the portal and NIL, because it is an absolute reality that it used to be. It was more about winning, and as long as you were winning, everyone seemed to be more happy. Now it's a lot about individual performance and getting my NIL money. If I don't get X amount of targets, I'll jump in the portal. You do have to navigate that. It is very difficult coaching in this day and age. So that's where that balance comes in, to where you try to impart that, look, guys, you want to be part of a winning program, and I get it. And that may mean giving up 3 or 4 targets a game that you might be able to get somewhere else. But at the end of the day, we're trying to win championships. We're trying to build something here. And once we start to get what we want from a passing game standpoint, we can go ahead and ramp that up. It's tough. It's very tough. But yes, I do believe there's a focus on the receivers. I think that there was too much of a focus on Cam Coleman last Saturday. And I think we've heard some rumblings that, you know, Hugh Freeze directed Payton Thorne. If Cam Coleman was one-on-one, get him the ball. I get that, but sometimes that turns into forced throws when you got guys underneath like Robert Lewis and KLS running wide open in the secondary. Yeah. Don't force it. And so it's a balance. But then on one hand, you're right. If you're focused on the young wide receivers, why did Simmons and Perry Thompson hardly get targeted? I think the answer lies in the fact that Hugh Freeze answered that at a press conference again and said, look at our number of possessions. Yeah. We didn't have an opportunity to give them as many targets as we wanted to because we didn't have the ball as much. Hopefully that gets rectified.
Yeah, I mean, I think it will on Saturday. Does it get rectified against Oklahoma in 2 weeks? And like Arkansas, I think Auburn will be able to score on Arkansas. I'm worried about Auburn stopping Arkansas, but that's a conversation we'll have next week for sure. But yeah, to me, like you can't worry about that stuff right now. Like you've got to win these games that you're supposed to win. And to me, like Keandre Lambert-Smith, like good things happen when you throw him the football. Now, it does sound like he ran the wrong route on one of those picks, and like you've got to figure all that out. But to me, like I've just been really impressed with what I've seen from him so far. It's just this weird balancing act of you want to compete and you want to make a run for the college football playoff in 2025, which I do think is still possible with the talent on this roster. You got to figure out a few things, obviously, but you've got plenty of time to do that. And you need these young receivers in order for you to achieve that. But I just don't get the vibe that any of these young receivers are like in danger of leaving. And maybe that's ignorance. Maybe that's ignorance on my part. But to me, like, I also think you're kind of putting yourself in a really tricky situation if you're already giving them that much influence and power. Like, it's just, I understand that that's coaching in this modern age of college football, but to me, I don't know. It just doesn't, it doesn't really sit right with me, Darrell.
That's the catch-22 of getting so many of them at one time in one class.
Yeah.
Because by sheer numbers, you're having to appease 4. You know that Robert Lewis and KLS are moving on to greener pastures next year, but you've got the Freeze 4. And it seems like Bryce Kane has kind of fallen down that depth chart. So there's 3 in Thompson, Simmons, and Coleman. Now, the Coleman situation is going to rectify itself next week, and I think others will get more targets, or not next week, Saturday, because it sounds like Coleman may not play because of his shoulder, which I wouldn't play him anyway.
No, it's not worth it.
So give Perry Thompson and Malcolm Simmons. Well, Malcolm Simmons plays technically inside, not outside, but give Perry Thompson more targets that Coleman would have got. Make sure you target Lewis and KLS and Simmons. Get 4 guys in there and rotate them and throw a lot of balls their way when you do throw it off of the run. Look, you could throw it 20. I think New Mexico is a good litmus test for the following week because you said something that was very crucial. I think we can score at will, but New Mexico is going to move the ball and I think score on Auburn's defense. We'll talk about in a minute too. So that kind of is similar to what Arkansas may do. I'm not saying a shootout, but Auburn's got to be ready to outscore some folks.
Yeah. Yeah. And right now they are not equipped to do that. And I think that goes back to, hey, let's shift our mindset a little bit. Let's get a little boring. So if you do have a drive that doesn't result in points, at least the defense is on the sideline getting to take a breather for 2 or 3 minutes. That's just that's part of the Cal thing where like everybody's hopping on Auburn's defense, and I'm like, I think with what they were kind of like handed, I think they were just fine. Like that to me is not. That is not the concern to me.
The turnover aspect is that's the only other thing Auburn can do to really equate that into W's is if you run the ball effectively and your defense plays decent, but you get some turnovers, you'll win games. You will win games. You'll win them ugly, but you'll win games, getting them a short field, that kind of stuff. I mean, let's be honest. We can talk about everything Cal did, but if Auburn only turns it over 2 times instead of 5, and as a -2 on their turnover ledger, they have a really good shot to win that football game.
If that's the mindset of, okay, like Auburn's going to run the ball more and, help out the defense and all that, like, why can't you do that with Hank Brown?
I agree. You're
right.
Preaching. Sorry. You're telling Noah about the flood. You're preaching to the choir.
I gotcha. Auburn is a 4-touchdown favorite against New Mexico. Do they cover? Our overall thoughts about the game, that's coming up right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at Factor. Factor meals are fantastic. They're delicious. And I mean, you can kind of pick whatever kind of wellness goals you have. They've got options like Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, Keto. Darrell, you and I have both ordered food from Factor, and it's an incredible variety of like pastas and grilled meats and different types of protein. It's legit good. And it's filling. I was pleasantly surprised when I tried Factor.
So convenient. 5 minutes and you're ready for lunch. And like you said, I love how they can customize what your goals are, your health goals. If it's keto, if it's low calorie, and then you just heat it up and you're ready to go. And I was surprised. I have a nice healthy appetite, and I was pretty full.
Yeah, I'm the same way. So just 2 minutes. Take it out and you poke holes in it so it can vent and you heat it up for 2 minutes.
Like we're doing right now. We're venting, right? We're getting some holes poked in us.
That's right. You can head to factormeals.com/LockedOnCollege50 and use code LockedOnCollege50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month. That's code LockedOnCollege50 at factormeals.com/LockedOnCollege50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month while your subscription is active. Hey, today's show is also brought to you by our friends at Home Field. Home Field is it's the best. When you talk about vintage old school apparel that is super trendy and the old school obby and all of that stuff over at homefieldapparel.com. Of course, that's just the Auburn side of it. They've got all colleges. They've got a ton of colleges there, but you and I have ordered a bunch of things from homefieldapparel.com before they even partnered with the show, Darrell.
Absolutely. All different schools. I love the baby blue Bo Jackson baseball replica jersey. First time I ever saw it was at Home Field. And that's really going back to 1985 to find that. So that's cool. A lot of their stuff is so retro, and I love that stuff. It really takes me back. So I love it. It's a natural apparel partnership for me. I love getting stuff from there.
Yeah, homefieldapparel.com. Be sure to check them out. And hey, when you order, use promo code WAREAGLE24 to help out, knock a little price off of the top of that order. That's at homefieldapparel.com. Darrell, when you look at this game, Auburn hosting New Mexico, Auburn is a 28-point favorite, according to our friends at FanDuel Sportsbook. I don't know if I'm taking Auburn to cover that because we just don't know what the strategy is here. If they run it every play, like I think there's a really solid chance that New Mexico would have a hard time slowing that down. But do they treat this game similar to like they did at Alabama A&M, where they want to throw it, which New Mexico stinks at stopping the pass? But I do think that sometimes we could go up against the air and we're not running the right routes. That's a problem. So to me, I don't really know how to feel about this 28-point spread. That's a lot. That's a lot of points, and I don't know if I'm quite ready to commit to Auburn winning by 4 touchdowns on Saturday.
I am.
You are.
They cover. I think New Mexico will score between 20 and 24, but I think Auburn's going over 48, over 50. I really do. Look, I've watched New Mexico, not because I've had to, but because I've wanted to. Number one, week 0, they were on, and I wanted to see what they looked like because they were Auburn's future opponent, and they got beat by Montana State. I'm not even going to mention why I watched them week 1 because you'll make fun of me. So we'll just move on.
They played your Arizona Wildcats.
Yeah, at night after the Auburn game, I got home and it was a late night game, so I watched the second half. And Auburn.
Hey, never be ashamed of your Arizona love. Never be ashamed of it.
I'm used to watching those late night games. Arizona was down at halftime to New Mexico, and it was just, but they just scored at will in the second half. And I think Auburn, albeit not as good of a passing offense as Arizona has, definitely a better running offense. So that's why I think Auburn, 55-20, somewhere around there is what I'm predicting.
Do you think it matters what Auburn tries to do offensively if they try to throw the ball more than run it, or if after 2 series they put Hank Brown in? Like, there's a lot of variables that we've discussed all week that play into this. Do you think any of them matter?
Yes, great point. If Auburn does what they did against Alabama A&M and comes out 5 wide and throws it in his quick strike, that equates to more possessions, which means higher score. Mm-hmm. If Auburn runs the football but just gets chunks and chunks and chunks of yardage, but takes 4 or 5 minutes to score, but runs it down New Mexico's throat, that gives them less opportunities to score more points because less possessions. Now, their percentage of touchdowns in ratio to possessions will be off the charts. If they are 5 of 5, 6 of 6 on the first 6 possessions, but it's run heavy, you're absolutely right. That's where I'm going to put a caveat on that and say if Auburn goes run heavy, I don't see them getting out of the 40s. If they do similar to what they did against Alabama A&M and have the same success and throw it all over the place, they can get up into the 50s. It does matter.
But on the other side of the coin, I feel better about New Mexico. See, to me, it's not about the points that Auburn's going to score. I actually feel weirdly confident about their ability to score. It's how many points is New Mexico going to score. And I think keeping your defense off the field and running the football a lot is going to help your defense and it's going to slow New Mexico down. So to me, it's not really about, when you look at the 28-point spread, to me, it's not about Auburn's offense. It's about New Mexico's offense versus Auburn's defense.
Yeah, because New Mexico could score 14, right? And Auburn could score in the 40s and your upper 30s, and you're still beating that spread. So there is different ways to get there. I just think with Dampier, their quarterback, he's dynamic. He's going to do some things. And now, if Auburn shuts him down, people will roll their eyes and go, oh, it's just New Mexico and their quarterback. No. I'm going to tell you something. If Auburn shuts this quarterback down, that bodes well for Auburn's defense going forward, especially the quarterback they play the next week is very similar to what Dampier is. Dual threat, does things with his legs, very closely mirror each other. So Auburn's got a nice audition with Dampier before they face Green the next week.
Yeah, I mean, the quarterback for Arkansas, Green, containment's going to be huge, and Auburn struggled with containment against Cal. So you get reps there, no question about it. How Give me a time in the game clock wise, when Hank Brown comes in.
Second possession. I got a feeling there could be a little bit of alternating going on. We shall see. Been wrong before. I don't mind going out on a limb. It's just an opinion. But I think Auburn can go down the field and score with Payton Thorne. And then if Auburn goes, if they go 3 and out or New Mexico, whatever, I definitely see a scenario where they could alternate a little bit and he could put Hank Brown in the game when the game's still not out of reach.
I'm going to say the first drive of the second quarter. He goes.
Okay. Cool.
Which could be the third or the fourth drive, depending on.
Right. That's what it would have been against Alabama A&M. Remember, 22 seconds was the average, the first. And that matters. I mean, I'm sitting here thinking that the only way you can do quick strike is with a throw, and that's naive. Hunter can score from anywhere on the field. Austin can. Right. It could be a 70-yard run, not just a pass play. So.
What's your score prediction?
55-20.
I'm going to go lower than that. I'll go 45-10.
Take either one right now.
Yeah.
If they hold New Mexico to 10 points with that quarterback, I feel really good about what Auburn's going to do the following week.
Yeah. I'm fascinated to see how they handle the quarterback rotation, if there even is one. We could be making something out of nothing, but I just don't think Hugh Freeze says/doesn't say the stuff that he says on Monday if Hank's not a part of the game plan. And sounds like he's had a really good week of practice. So we'll see. We will see what happens with that. Darrell, how can people check out everything you've got going on?
Follow me on X, DAP6410, Instagram, Darrell Dap. I'm with you Wednesday, Fridays, and the reaction show. And then really excited about our new virtual store, Zach, that we've opened up. We'll put it in the link here. It's on our socials, but you can get some stuff from the show, some fun things that we talk about during the show online in this virtual store.
Yeah, we've got some stuff that has Boog on it, as well as some Can You Imagine stuff.
Hats, hoodies, Nike stuff. It's all there.
Yeah, so be sure to check that out in the episode description down below. Please like the video. Please subscribe. We'll see you next time. This has been Locked On Auburn.